Hello, everyone, and welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host, and you can check out the show on your favorite app on Spotify or wherever you find it. It's also known as PWD Allies. That gives you a little hint on where to find it on Spotify or your favorite app, like I mentioned. Today, I have our discussion group. It's our roundtable, roundhouse roundtable. It's the number 8 show today, actually. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's we're really getting up
number
there.
8 and episode 68, actually.
Number 8 and 68, yeah. So 8 and 68. Yeah, so today's going to be a great show. A little bit condensed down today, but it's going to be a great show nevertheless, because it's always great discussions. Today we're going to be diving into a little bit of numbers, and I'm going to basically pass the mic over to Neil to start that off. We came across some numbers that,
Now you're going to make me look them up.
I'm going to make them look them up now.
Give me a second.
Yeah, anyone who's just listening in today on the podcast, there were some numbers that were given out from the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction in British Columbia, just on caseload numbers, some stat numbers. So Neil's going to look them up. When Neil's ready, I will actually come back to him. In the meantime, Neil, I'll pass the mic over, and then you can maybe just interject when you're ready. I'll start it out with Dan. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening on street level in Toronto, Ontario. Like the homeless count. I mean, are you seeing more homeless people, Dan, due to the lack of construction that's going on for new buildings that are getting built, and basically there's not enough housing in Canada. I mean, let alone in Ontario. Or in British Columbia, anywhere. So, are you seeing more like homeless, more people that are losing their homes due to the high rents and just the cost of living in general?
Yeah, so I live in Midtown Toronto, which is about 20 minutes away from downtown. It's really sad to me because a lot of the homeless community here in Toronto are actually right outside our city hall doors. So there's a bunch of heating crates from the subway, so it's for them to keep warm and such. I don't see the problem as lessening or worsening. I see it stagnant here. It's the same as it's always been. I was homeless starting in 97, right? So it was a different atmosphere back then. And then Mike Harris came along and tore it all up, right? I think as we speak right now, that is one of probably the biggest problem is affordability here. And I was very happy to see it. Everybody hates me for saying it. I don't give a shit. But I was very happy to see Mayor Olivia Chow get elected because she was all about affordability and trying to change things in people's homes. But the other day, I saw her go on TV and announce that there was only 27,000 people waiting for housing in Toronto. And I don't got to tell you from my work experience within the Toronto City Council, anybody that pays attention can tell you that that's just not true. Because if that were the case, that would have meant that Toronto has housed 60,000 people in the past 5 years. And that just hasn't happened. We all know that, right? So as it pertains to the building downtown and the causing of homelessness downtown, because that's just where a lot of the issue is. There is homeless all across the city. But the building and the construction and stuff like that, I don't think it has changed it, because the fact is they haven't done nothing about anything here in decades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the huge problem is housing can get built, right? I mean, any types of housing can get built, but it's making it truly affordable. Cities can always say, "Oh, well, we're building housing. We're making affordable housing. Affordable for who, though? Is it $2,000, $3,000 per month, and then you got all your hydro, and you got all your added expenses on top of that. So there's a disconnect. Yeah.
Not just that, but you have people who are subletting someone's condo, and if that owner says, "Ooh, I'm losing value on this," sorry guys, I'm jacking your rent by $1,000, and they're already at the 2,500 mark. Like, take my mom. I mean, she's a retired professor, and she's not hurting by any means, but she's in her 80s, and her partner's in his late 70s. And yes, they live in a nice condo. It's by the Dan would know this is on Sherburne, where the old red house was, close to the No Frills downtown on Bloor, by the Bloor station. And there's condos going up like crazy, and her rent increase will go to $3,500 for a 2-bedroom. And when I say 2-bedroom, it's more like 1 plus a den. The second room is very small. It's an 8x10. It's even maybe smaller than that. Realistically,
one of those like super closet spaces, basically, almost.
Yeah, and her bedroom is a nice size, but I mean, let's just call it a 1 plus.
Yeah.
In reality, like I've seen 1-bedrooms that have a bigger space, square footage, than some 2-bedrooms. I think a lot of these condos disguise themselves as 2-bedrooms when they're really a 1 plus den reality. But I digress. The thing is that she's now facing the condo where the old red house was. It was abandoned for years on Sherburne. Is now being turned into a condo. I think it's already been teared down, or is in the process of it. But there's a Shoppers almost across next to it, and there's a big empty space where there's towers going up, and then there's 2 more towers going up in front of her, between her and the lake. So she's going to be painting. She's going to be in that situation with so many condos that are down by the Gardiner, that literally look onto the Gardiner on both sides of it, going into the downtown core. She's going to be in the same spot where she's paying $3,500 to look into to another condo. Whereas now she's on the 16th floor facing the lake, and she has a decent, you can see the lake and a bit of into the Scarborough Bluffs a bit because of the height she's at, but I think she's on the 25th floor. Sorry, she's on the 25th floor. So she's got some height, but she's going to lose that within the next year or so, because the way they bang these condos up, and so many of them are sitting empty, and you get the fact that a lot of these units are empty, and people are losing their minds because no one's buying these condos, because to secure a mortgage, even with the interest rates, a lot of people are failing the stress test, even though they earn $80,000, $90,000 a year. So,
yeah, I was just going to say on that one, because
Allen Gardens is last time I was in Toronto in May or June, when I was coming through to go up to Kingston from Niagara. And Allen Gardens still has a lot of tents up. There's not as many as it did in early winter when I went up there the first time in early May. But it certainly does have as many tents as it did during the pandemic.
There's so many requirements now, as the down payments, a stress test too, and that's what they do in British Columbia too, a stress test just to see, are you, as a person, going to be able to maintain those payments if interest rates go higher. So you have to have a buffer. And, so it's just getting outrageous.
There's no fixed mortgages now. It's all variable. So someone's mortgage can bounce around like a rubber ball.
Oh yeah.
I've got the numbers here, Brent. The reason it took me a while because I had to dig around a little bit, but also I wanted
waffling on. So
I wanted to make it big so I can read it. So
okay.
I've got it full screen here for myself.
Okay, so for the listeners and people tuning in today, Neil's got the numbers, and so it's all up to you, Neil.
So it's like I'm the numbers guy today.
You're the numbers guy today, yeah.
Yeah, so this email, we should say it's from an advisor to Sheila Malcolmson. She's the current minister for social development here in BC. And so the advisor's name is Hashim Kamran. And so he's the one that sent the email, and he sent it for yourself and for Jeff Leggett. You both asked for these numbers. So yes. He gave a breakdown of what some of the numbers are for the caseload, the overall caseload here in BC. So the first number I'll throw out at you is for a single person here in BC. The total maximum amount of support that you can get here in BC for a single person is $1,300 is $1,358.50. That's the maximum for a single person here in BC. And then the next number he gives here is the total caseload for singles here in BC is 106,372. And then he says the singles with total allowance less than the maximum. Okay, this is where we start getting into the clawbacks. Okay, so I want everybody's ears to perk up here, because now we're talking about clawbacks where people are getting less than the maximum allowable because of the pink unicorn clawbacks, right? So yeah. Here we have singles with the total allowance less than the maximum, and that total is 15,433. That means that there's, in my, the way I look at it is you have 15,000 people, over 15,000 people that are a victim of the pink unicorn clawback. Next number here, and this includes me, because the next number here we're going to talk about couples, families with children, total caseload. So I'm one of these, and that's 27,391. And here's the number that I hate, and I'm also part of this one. So again, you have the total number is 27,391, but here is the total number. It says couples and families with children with a total allowance less than the maximum. And are you ready for this? Mm-hmm. It's 4,215. So 4,000 people, 4,200 people are getting, again, victimized with the clawback, with a pink unicorn. And again, I'm one of those that is getting victimized. And so, what's so what's that 4,200 people? I think that works out to 15%, right? So basically, and we've talked about this before, Brent, or at least I've talked about it in emails and the whole bit is that the top 15% of the most vulnerable. So you're talking single parents, or you're talking people that are widows or widowers, like really high needs. We're talking high needs now, and I mean I include myself again in that group, right?
Yep.
And so you're talking the top 15% of the most vulnerable. And yet they're the most victimized, because you got 4,200 people that are being victimized with the clawback, and yet these are the people that are the most in need and the most vulnerable. And you're going to say, "I'm sorry, you deserve a pink unicorn clawback." And I think those numbers, again, shed a light, right, where you have the total number of caseloads for children and families is 27,000, and the number getting the clawback is 4,215 people. And that to me is just not right. It's inexcusable that like we said yesterday, that pink unicorns are a thing. They shouldn't be a thing. They're not real. And anybody that hasn't watched the quick and dirty podcast that we did yesterday, Brent, they should go back and watch that, because I'm quite happy with that. And I do want to get a lot of feedback from that, because I think it's I'd be interested to hear what the feedback from that is.
Basically on the stats on those numbers, Neil, that 1358.50. So that's a single person on disability assistance, which there used to be a pension at one time, back in the early 1990s, just so people would understand that that's when we talk about pink unicorns, magically it disappeared from a pension just to being able to be clawed back, right? So, but that 1358.50. That's not including the $125 that the provincial government gave to some.
That's true. That's true.
Some PWD only if you can claim, actually prove that your rent actually went up. So if your rent did not go up above $375, the shelter rate that was frozen for 15 years, not even a penny, then you do not get that $125. So anyone in supportive housing or anyone who's not paying market rent in in the standard private sector to a corporate landlord, they don't get that 125. But they will only if the rent actually went up. So I don't know anyone in basic market housing that the rent has not gone up in market housing above 375. That would be good if it didn't, because people could then put that money back into the economy, right? But the people in supportive housing, unfortunately, did not get that 125. Their cost of living went up substantially. Their disability, necessities that they need for their disability, ongoing expenses, they don't go down. As we all know, cost of living has gone skyrocket through the roof. But the government says, no, you don't need more money. No, you don't need it. I think they failed on that one part, miserably failed, because it's like dividing disabled against disabled. Or you can have it, you don't need to have it. But hey, but there's more to do. Don't worry. Wait till next year, and we'll fix it up, right? No, they should have just done it all once to give everybody that increase. And better yet, I won't waste a lot of time because I want to get feedback on what Neil mentioned from everybody else on their discussion group today. But I think they missed the opportunity of getting that money up to everybody. I would say raise it up a livable income, obviously, and we're going to dive into that after. But that's my take on it. But yeah, those numbers are just outrageous, Neil.
It's pink unicorn math. That's my take on it. Anyway, MJ had his hand up earlier.
Yeah, we'll go to MJ on this one, and I'm just gonna.
Okay. One thing I really want to mention here is just I actually went and read the law that operates welfare and disability. If you've actually ever taken a look at the law in BC, you'll find it's the most vaguest, ambiguous law that has ever been written for welfare and disability that I've ever seen. There is zero specifics of how the system is to be run and how the program is to be run, how it's to be organized, how the money is to be distributed, and so on and so forth. It's all done within regulation, within the ministry, which means the minister can change things on a moment's notice of his own accord without having to go back to the legislature to get permission.
You mean MJ? You mean they don't have to wait to get a state-of-the-art new computer system in 2 years from now? You mean they don't have to wait till then?
Look. They already have the system. It's the senior system. Like I just said on a previous program, you could use the exactly same system and just add a couple fields.
Copy paste.
Say, well, no, it's just a database entry. You say, okay, you're a senior citizen. You're on disability, right? And it's just a field. That's all you do is you add a field in the database, and there you go. And we could both be in the database, and they'd flip over and go, oh, we pull up your name. Oh, you're on the disability program. Very same administration. You could run both sides without any BS.
Lotus 123. I used to use that, and it's so easy to make fields.
I mean, and the reason I don't believe it either is because they already have all of the. I mean, everybody that gets what is it? The T5. I even forget what it is now.
T5007.
T5007. Everybody that gets one of those, they have a record of every one of us. So to say that, I'm sorry, the bus pass thing has been destroyed. Well, you can't go back to all of the T5007s and just recreate just do almost like a copy paste idea from the existing seniors bus pass. You can't do that. I don't buy that. I don't buy that it's impossible to recreate another one based on just going back to the T5007. Anybody and their dog should be able to do it. So I don't buy. I don't buy for a moment you can't do it.
Well,
I asked the people at Best Buy Mobile, and they detect people years ago on that one. They're like, "Oh my God, is that what they're telling you? That the computer system was destroyed?" I go, "Yeah." Oh my God, could they not come up with a better fiction story than that? I'm like, "Also told me."
A computer started smoking.
What happened is when they closed the program, they auctioned the computer off with the program still on it. They probably didn't even bother taking a backup. They got rid of the computer with the program, not thinking, oh, well, we might need this. Like any intellectual that has ever worked in the network administrator field will tell you, you always have backup and backup and backup. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And since they're using the exact same program with the seniors program, you could take that program and database, literally, empty the database of the data over here.
That's my point of the copy paste. Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, and then you take the database and the program and put it over here onto the new computer system, and there you go. Bada bing, bada boom. But you know what? It's all hokey BS. I've programmed basic PHP. I understand how to connect databases. I understand all of this. All of their story is nonsense. This could have been recreated and solved within a month.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Remember those disk drives the blank disks that you could actually copy back and forth?
Yep.
Yeah, same thing.
And nowadays, how long would it take for them to do a copy paste of the seniors database and migrate it over to a new? It would take maybe a minute or maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah,
all you do is you just clone it.
Yeah.
Right? It. Because for example, if I'm going to go a little technical. If you got your own system over here that you have an exact duplicate over here, you just clone everything over, and then you just go in and you just empty all the fields in the database, and then you just go and set up a new administrator, and then wipe out all the old administrators and start back over again. It's not rocket science. It's all a lot of nonsense. Yeah. I mean, when they tell us this stuff.
No, I used to build databases for a living. I did it for about 7 years. I worked for the provincial government, and the bulk of my job was building databases. So I am very well versed in how to build a database, and I can tell you, like you said, MJ, it's not rocket science. It doesn't take that much. It takes a little bit of organization if you're starting from scratch, but that's about it, right? It's not hard.
Exactly, and this is why it's like when I sit here and I listen to people talk about, UBI is going to be so complex, it's going to be this and that, and I'm like, really? All we got to do is just go into the CRA portal, add a new tab, and just say, do you want to receive this money, yes or no? There you go. Why do we need to go and have it over in Service Canada, which is another waste of millions and billions of dollars, by the way. I mean, it's like the Work BC programs. I'm sorry. How many of those programs have you ever seen amount to a hill of beans other than wasting your time so they can justify their job?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
You're talking about.
by the
I
time.
find a lot of those also. They say, oh well, if you have a disability, you can go to March Times or whatever
Yeah, you can
employment
go
agency.
here, go there, go right.
But what I found is as soon as you go in there and you got your A game on, and they're like, "Oh, this is wonderful. Look at like take my case. I've taken my portfolio with me, whatever." And you get in there, and then they're like, "Oh, this is wonderful. We can do some interesting things." And as soon as you sign on the dotted line, you're a ghost to them because they've already added you as you're another number to their funding. Now, I would say March Times is probably the exception to the rule because they do other things, but any run-of-the-mill employment service,
It's a
they're
waste
like
of time and
basically,
money.
well, they're like go on Indeed and apply to jobs and anything we can help you with. I'm like, well, then why do I need you again?
Well,
Like, none of the jobs
Exactly.
I've ever found have ever been through an employment agency. There's never been a job match. I think they're a whole funded shell, almost
Well,
like a shell.
they are. They are actually, believe it or not. I'm currently dealing with it over my driver's license issue that I talked to you guys about a while back.
Right.
And we're gonna see where it goes. It's probably gonna go nowhere. I mean, I don't put out hope for much of anything anymore. I mean, I just, I honestly, I don't. I expect nothing, because that way, if something happens, I'm surprised.
Exactly.
it's just gravy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's a
That way
bonus.
I'm not disappointed. That way I don't have disappointment. And when it comes to a lot of these programs, it's like I'm of this opinion. It's like if you give people the money and you tell them, figure it out. A lot of people will figure out. They're like, you know what? I'm actually interested in being a plumber. I'm interested in, in being, I paint casually. What could I do with this? Right? Because here's the thing is you go to a museum, you connect with people. Once you start connecting with people, you teach.
Network.
And the problem is yes, there's a lot of programs to teach you how to network and all the rest of the stuff that you could do from home on your computer, to teach you about how to, there's online universities that are free, right, out there right now. And they're getting to the point of where there's going to be degree programs that'll be for free because they're just, or like the poem, like getting your serving it right or getting your food safe or WMIS or weird things like these. Like you can do that online. Why do I need to go to a class anymore? All of these things are moving online. So it's like solve the problem and just give people enough money that they can go and get themselves going.
Well,
Get all these people out of the way.
Our friend Tom Poxon.
Right.
One of the things that he says that I love all the time, he talks about bullshit jobs that so many people nowadays are just doing bullshit jobs just because, right? And I do agree that there aren't very many good job finding agencies out there anymore. But I know you and I have both talked about this, Brent. There was one, and this is going back, 20, 30 years. VRS, Vocational Rehab Service. They were amazing, like really, really, really good. They helped pay for my college and university, and like you and I have shared before. We got a food allowance, we got an entertainment allowance, we got the book allowance, and the whole bit, and it was like amazing. And then after I was done with that, then I got hooked up with another organization called IAM Cares. It was called, and again another amazing. And I think both of these organizations are now defunct; they no longer exist, which is a shame. because they were top level, like I'm talking top level, top flight. I mean I mean, you know, just like yesterday we were talking about Expo 86, where you walked in those doors and they treated everybody with disabilities like they were royalty. VRS and the IAM Cares, same thing. You walked in the door and they bent over backwards. As long as they knew, like, you had to they vetted you so hard, like
oh yeah,
they vetted you really, really hard, because they wanted to know that you were 100% committed. If they knew that you weren't 100% committed, they would show you the door right then.
Yeah, they would open the door.
But if they knew that you were committed, they would give you literally the shirt off their backs, right? Both of them were amazing. I can't say one bad word about them, and it's too bad that both of those don't exist anymore.
They put me through college too, and when I went through and I learned about programming, computer programming, and all these databases like MJ, like you were talking about, and I mean, they were amazing. But yes, yeah, you're right, Neil. I mean, I had to prove that is something that was going to be like a major tool for me. Yeah. And part of the course I took was also in communications. So, and I really got to know my inner self. It's okay, Brent. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to speak out. And so I learned a lot about that throughout the whole program. It was amazing. They put me not through just once, but twice, 2 programs. The other one was communications. The other one was programming. But yeah, like it was totally, just totally amazing. Like it really is an eye opener of, I mean, I got transportation, food allowance. I mean, you name it. I was like, wow, all this money. Yeah. But you know what? Like I utilized it. And if I didn't utilize it, I would put it to like I had a jar, and I literally would throw the money in the jar. Yeah. Because then I'd say, okay, I'm going to go, we had a class function and everyone was going to buy lunches because we had a big, get together. And I thought, well, I don't have this extra money. Now I did. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, it's in that jar, because my transportation one day, I got a ride down to the school because my next door neighbor was going. I said, I have transportation funds. Well, I'm going down. So it saved me that money. So I used that money. Mm-hmm. So we went to some outings and it was great.
Sorry, MJ. I just wanted to add one little thing. Is one little thing I wanted to add, and that's that you knew that they respected you so much. Like, again, if you passed their vetting procedure, which was really stringent, by the way, it was a very like you had to pass their vetting, but if you did, they trusted you so much. Mm-hmm. And the point I want to make is, because they trusted me so much, and they respected me so much, I wanted to like pay it back to them, like that. Yeah. I respected them and I trusted them so much, right? And I think that's a lesson that I think a lot of provincial governments here in BC and all across the country, they need to learn that you know what, if you respect people. Mm-hmm. If you respect people and you say, you know what, I'm going to trust you, I'm going to respect you, and I'm going to trust you with the money because I think you're a valuable person. I think you're a valuable person, so I'm going to trust you and value you as a person. I'm going to trust you with this. And I mean that is so empowering. I mean, when they gave me that power, that sense of power, and said, I'm going to trust you. We're behind you. That is so empowering, and I mean, I took off and ran with it, and that's a lesson that I've kept. I mean, I that is a lesson that I learned from them. Like you always talk about lessons you learn from your parents, but that is one lesson that I learned from VRS and IAM Cares that I've kept in my brain from that day, like 30 years ago, whatever it was.
Right. But it's still meaningful going forward now, because carrying that forward is looking at what the government across Canada are doing in each province to persons with disabilities on how they treat their citizens within each province, and learning on how VRS and IAM Cares, how they vetted people because they believed in their clients. They 100%, 1,000%, they believed in their clients. So should we say? But you had to basically, like you said, you had to prove that why should they help you, right? And it was a mutual understanding, a mutual
thing.
agreement.
Yeah.
And when I look at how the governments are not investing in people with disabilities across this country, including even seniors, veterans, my gosh, like they're homeless. Speaking of, I'm gonna pass the mic over to Dan, because I want Dan's take on this. Is that during the ceremonies across the country on November the 11th, veterans that are homeless, no fault of their own. I mean, they've injured because they fought for what we have now. People with disabilities, homeless. Why? I'm still baffled that it doesn't have to be that way. But veterans, I mean, also
clawed back pensions for veterans.
Yeah, they clawed back their pensions, and they fought for what we have now.
Thank you for your service. We're going to claw back your pension. Thank you very much.
And I look at it as lest we forget.
Yeah.
And that includes every single citizen in this country. So I'm going to pass it over to Dan. I know those are kind of harsh words, how I'm wording it, but I want the government to realize we are citizens. We are all taxpayers, regardless on if they're not working, they're working, PWD working or not working. We're all taxpayers. We're all citizens. Dan, your take on this?
Well, I absolutely agree with every single thing you guys have said, right? Like, for example, governments will tell through media and whoever else to, tell the general public that they spend millions on PWD and seniors and such. But what you guys touched on earlier was right. The majority of it goes to salaries. Like when MJ says smaller governments, and I particularly agree with him on this when it comes to like workers. So for example, ODSP workers or OW workers, it's just a fact that there's some people in our community that need some extra help and a little extra guidance and such. And that's great. We have workers for that. But there are other people where it goes back to what you guys have been saying all along, right? Give people the money and they'll know what to do with it, right? Like my feelings on clawbacks, especially with people that are disabled or seniors.
Yeah.
Pardon my French, but what the fuck? How do you get blood from a stone, right? And as Neil put forth earlier, that's a really point blank statement. Like T5007s, they know what we all make, they know what we all need. But this disgusting, like I didn't go to our Remembrance Day service this time just because of the climate on our streets right now, with all those protests and such. Yeah. But man, to have somebody serve our country and then end up in a shelter and have no way of getting out, no way of getting help, like that, to me, that's just a dagger right there too, right? So going forward, I hope that people act like Miss Malcolmson did, and other people will in the future too, is listen to these programs, come on these programs, and explain yourself to people. Tell people, how are you going to help them? Because as you've seen what Alan just mentioned earlier too, I know exactly where his mother lives, right? But I haven't been in that particular area in a couple of years. So obviously something's going on there that I didn't know about, right? And it's like, holy shit, how can you just kick people out in the streets like that have been contributing members to your society and community forever?
See, and this is where
it's a condemnic out there.
See,
it's
and this
a condemnic.
Go ahead, MJ.
This is where I'm one of these people that I've, when you start looking at numbers, I mean, I think quite literally we need to get rid of Airbnb and the likes of those. I'm sorry. That's one step. The second step is getting rid of corporations from owning condos and mobile homes and single family homes, unless they're specifically rented out for the purpose of, a CEO is living in this condo and this is part of his contract and you can prove it, then fine and frickin' dandy, right? But he should be able to afford his own house. Right? If he's making that much money, he should be able to afford his own place. So I don't think corporations should need to own anything like that. I mean, so to me, when I look at that, I look at the whole thing of, foreigners is another big problem. where foreigners have encapsulated the market by offloading, trying to hide their money outside of China and other countries in Canada. And I'm sorry, but I don't think that we should be supporting that type of thing at the expense of Canadians. And the moment something becomes at an expense of Canadians, I have to question its value.
There's some corporate greed out there right now, and there's no accountability to some of these big corporations that these corporate landlords. I mean, it's just commodity, right? And it's financialization, right? Huge financialization. In many cases, they don't pay the taxes. No, they skirt around that, and that's got to stop.
Brent, the problem people don't understand when it comes to income tax, as an employee, we're taxed on our gross income. Yep. Corporations and businesses are taxed on their net income, right?
Right.
And that difference is the biggest difference for corporations that
are
multi-billion-dollar businesses. They can deduct everything under the sun, and then at the end, they don't pay any taxes. Oh, because, for example, they have Corporation A or Corporation B who operates in Canada, but Corporation A owns the patents to all the goods they make that license the patents to them, and they have to pay this absorbent licensing fee to a corporation who's in a third-party country who has next to no costs for income tax, right? So what happens is this money goes through a system, and once it's paid taxes in one country, it's, there you go. So, but company B over in Canada uses that licensing fee as a deduction, so they don't have to pay taxes on that.
Like a satellite, almost like a satellite company.
Sounds like a law laundering to me.
It is. It's a way of laundering. It's legalized money laundering, and quite literally it is. When you look at the numbers and look at how the system is designed, it's legalized money laundering. So I propose everybody, if corporations are persons and persons are equal under the law, then corporations should be taxed the same way as persons are, which means on gross income, right? That's being equal.
And you know what? I thank you for that, because I actually never even fucking knew that. I did not. I knew they had tax breaks more than us and all that, but I did not know that they were taxed by the different. Wow.
Yep, it is. It's
Yes, there's your tax course for the day.
there was a lady I had on. She's over a year ago now, Dan. And she was actually a rapporteur for housing. And I'm gonna try and get her on again one day, maybe onto our roundtable if I can get Neil to try to get a hold of her. But I know she's extremely busy. She goes around the world. She's a rapporteur for housing. She exposes out the bad landlords, and I mean there are some good landlords too. I know I'm not going to say that there's not good landlords, but she exposes out all the corporate landlords, financialization. She was actually the lead person in a documentary that was actually put out by Frederick Gurton, and she was actually Lalani Farha, and she was the lead person in it, and she went around just to find out what is going on, like who are these invisible landlords, and the rents would go up, skyrocket, and she showed a graph, and nobody believed it. And so she went after the governments around the world and like accountability. She's made a lot of headway, and exposed out the problems. This problem is that a lot of these corporate landlords will come into cities, small cities, and then they grow up to bigger cities, and then they buy up all the small little tiny companies, right? And they'll mom and pop operation here, or they're struggling. Well, then they like vultures. They'll look at that, they'll buy them up. But then they make satellite companies. They make little satellite companies, and like you said, MJ, they could be in another country altogether. And then
you mean a lot of people don't understand how the system. I've been doing a lot of reading on my own to learn how this system works. Not just the government at itself, but the overall like international system on top of it all. And there's a lot of learning, and when it comes to understanding all of this, I mean, there are things that we can solve within a nation. We can solve the housing crisis. We can solve the homelessness issue. We can solve the welfare and disability and unemployment issue. We can solve things. Let's stop going and giving colleges and universities carte blanche to add stupid courses to courses that have nothing to do with the course at hand that you're teaching, right? If you want to go in for, economics, you don't need to learn other courses unrelated. And that's where grifting with student loans is part of the problem, right? And to me, if we're going to be putting our tax dollars into education, then we should have the say of what courses our government is going to cover. And if the course has nothing to do with this educational process of becoming an engineer or becoming a programmer or whatever, I mean, if it's some course that has no value to the job at hand, then it shouldn't be included, right? And the problem we have...
Sorry.
Let me finish for a second. The problem we have is with student loans, because it's our tax dollars, we just allow this carte blanche to go on. And to me, and this is where what I was talking about in the last episode with UBI, is if it's our tax dollars and we're giving it to people, then we should be able to say, this needs to amount to something, right? You need to be able to go and show that the university degree is going to be for something that's going to benefit society. I mean, when it comes to our money, I mean, it seems the amount of waste, people don't realize how big the waste is in our country that we could solve these problems with. And that's the real catch of this. The waste is staggering. It's in the hundreds of billions of dollars. If we put all the benefit programs together in Canada, we're probably talking about $500 billion a year across all the provinces and the feds.
Just a few dollars there.
That exactly. And they say, oh, we can't afford UBI.
Well, just the idea, though, too, that the government always says, well, we can't afford to give PWD more money, but it's like, and I've made this point before, but they have this idea that they're just flushing the money somehow. They don't see it as, you know what, if we give people more money, they're going to reinvest it in the economy. So for some reason they think that the money is just going to evaporate. It doesn't evaporate. It gets put back into the economy, and it's
supposed to.
It's an economy driver.
Yeah.
And like the point I've made before, and the point you've made before, I mean, of all the population in Canada, we are probably the most devoted to have our money stay in the province that we're in, because we're so tied down by rules and regulations saying thou shalt not leave the province, right? So you have all these governments saying, well, we have to encourage spending and economy stimulus within our province. Well, I mean, that's what you and I do, Brent.
Yeah.
But God forbid that the province gives us more money so we can reinvest in the province.
Yeah. Or if you want to leave the province for more than 30 days, I mean, can I have a month pass?
The ODSP is so punitive that if I left Ontario to go to Winnipeg for 3 days, I actually will get docked.
Even for 3 days?
3 days.
Wow.
Oh, even 5. Yeah, it's so. I mean, why don't you just put an electronic bracelet on my ankle and make me not allowed to leave the city I live in? It's getting to the punitive repercussions are so stupid. Even my worker, who I didn't like at the first, I thought she was kind of a bit of a Karen, and I'm kind of on the fence about that. But she even said, the punitive regulations that we have to put on people with disabilities is so heartbreaking. Like, it's just, she goes, I cringe because I have to tell a client that I can't access more funds for them, or I can't get them an extra pair of glasses, or I can't authorize them new hearing aids every 2 years.
See
or
that's
whatever, or to
yeah.
be able to, or to
See,
be able to waive the fact that they they can't earn more in gifts
See, the
over a
problem
certain
on that
amount.
is the workers, their hands are tied because the system has been designed exactly the way that the governments want it to work. So the ones that
Absolutely.
are working there are just administrators, right? There's a lot of them that really care a lot, and but they can't change anything because the system won't allow them to do it.
right.
Uh,
What
yeah,
and in the BC system for welfare and disability, the last time I checked the law, the regulations, it's all done by regulations and rules. It's not done by law. It's basically
exactly.
gives the minister to go and set this up on his own accord, carte blanche, without
They
the
can,
need to come back to the legislature, which means he can change it on a moment's notice, right? And and that's part of the problem that we have. I mean, so when you sit here and say that they're designed exactly as they want them, that is exactly correct. They don't want to make it easy because if the truth was out there of how many useless jobs we actually have in society right now, people would be absolutely shocked to find that 3/4 of the jobs that currently exist in society are generally useless, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
Or created
or created,
for.
yes. And this is where a lot of government administrative jobs have been created. And most of these jobs, I mean, if these people had same jobs or similar jobs in the private sector, they'd probably be earning more money in the private sector. And this is the part that gets me, is in the private sector there would be more chance for advancement and growth, but they're just stuck. Plus, if they didn't like the job, it'd be a lot easier to quit, and find something else.
And oh my God, the funny. Okay, so back in 2002, I did a web design course, and unfortunately, the school closed because it wasn't as legit as it actually looked on paper. But um, back in 2002, I was funded for a $14,000 web design program. I'm not sure it was written the paper it was written on because it was learn at your own pace, and you had to buy your books and stuff, and you basically sat in the lab and went through the book, and then the instructor was there once a week. Yeah, once a week.
Wow.
Hmm.
And you got a 1 hour course every 2 weeks, and you were expected. But March of Dimes did a lot of the negotiating through ODSP on that. But on the ODSP side, the funding has just vanished. It's like they think they're doing something special by offering you $120 computer course to learn computers like you've never touched one. Like, I'm sorry, but get with it. We're all walking around with, for the most part, smartphones that have more horsepower than most of the computers they're going to train us on. Like, give me a frickin' break. It's so redundant. Like, oh, you can take a course on how to operate Word. Most people already know how GBT it works within these
Yeah.
Word programs. So the training is just so arbitrary, backdated. It's like that $150 course you're going to put me through a week
It's a
is
waste of
not going to
time.
be. It's a
Most
waste of
people,
time. It's not going to be worth the hell of beans to the an employer looking at your resume is going to not jump off the table and go, "Oh my God, you took a computer course this week. Please come and meet the staff. Let's get you lined up." No,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not. You're
I'm
right. It's not
sorry.
like it was 50 years
It's
ago.
redundant.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly. Exactly.
See,
Alan.
and this is where I've was talking about all these programs that have been created and funded that are completely just useless.
Irrelevant.
They don't do anything other than create jobs for people to go and justify their jobs. Tomorrow I have an appointment at 10 to go into Work BC, and we're going to see how much nonsense and waste of time that's going to be. I'll report back next week and let you know how much time, whether the entire thing was a complete waste of my day. And, I mean, and I'm going to tell them, I am seriously talking about the idea of creating this political party. And you do understand that your federal funding is being investigated right now because I will be dropping federal funding for programs that are generally useless. right? And redirecting it all for UBI, right? Because I'm one of these people that I realized that there's over 50% of the federal government we could get rid of with automation, right? With changing 5 laws, which would be the Divorce Act, the Marriage and Divorce Act, merging, the unemployment laws, CPP, and all the rest of these other benefits programs, and the Income Tax Act, GST, et cetera, well, maybe 10, merging a lot of these things together, simplifying the tax code so you're get the first 10, 15 grand of your income tax free, and then the rest is taxed at 15%, people are going to go and say, okay, we're on board. Because if you say all income is taxed equally, it doesn't matter where it comes from, right? Except for a few exemptions. If it's already been taxed, then there's no point to tax it again.
Right.
But our system likes to do that right now.
Yeah, double tax and triple tax.
No, they like to quadruple tax the crap out of you, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm saying, like, if you win the lottery and you won $70 million, 15% of that, isn't bad to pay into your federal income tax. I mean, you'd be doing your part. I mean, but they don't pay income tax, right? And a lot of people that win large lotteries end up being broke very quickly, right? And I'm like, yes, but we should go and at least take something up front. Before right? Yeah. I mean, there should be some form of tax for that. That way, it's like, look, I'm sorry, but you win. If you go win at bingo, there should be a tax for that if you win 10 grand or whatever, because you can win 10 grand at bingo. And it should be considered as income. Doesn't matter. It's all should be equal. I mean, the only exceptions, in my opinion, should be an inheritance tax, or like will and estates, and like an insurance payout from like a major car accident, where it's like that money is through no fault of your own.
Yeah.
Right? As it were, like you didn't make it from your own money or your own investment. So if it's already been taxed, then there you go. Right? I mean, simplifying the programs and the system would save us millions in
all these clawbacks with stuff.
Exactly. And with this program that I offer with this idea, UABI, is there'd be no clawbacks. It's $4,000, take it or leave it, and get your life going. Right? And if you can't get your life going, you're physically disabled, I mean, there should be some form of insurance, because in BC, a lot of people don't know that the disabled people in BC are covered under Blue Cross. However, they make us go through an entire division of disability to ask permission for advanced medical services, which would otherwise be automatically covered under Blue Cross. This is something people don't realize. I use a CPAP machine, and to go and get the equipment for my CPAP machine, like a new mask, a new hose, and filters, I have to go and fill out paperwork with the company I choose to go and get the government to approve it. But otherwise would have been covered by Blue Cross if I presented my Blue Cross number.
Yeah, it's all gated, right?
Right?
It's all gated.
So to me, if you could afford to go and get Blue Cross, for yourself or your family or whatever, I mean, they would cover, for the most part, all these things that we have to fight with welfare disability to cover. Right?
All the hoops I keep jumping through it in order to get it, right?
Well, exactly. You need hearing aids covered. You need new glasses covered, right? We automatically cover 80% or whatever it is, even if it's 60%. I mean, geez. I mean, if that's covered with your insurance, or even going to the dental or getting implants or dentures or whatever it would be that you would need, or your monthly prescription, right? Your monthly prescriptions. I mean, how much nonsense do people got to deal with that are senior citizens or disabled for their prescriptions, right? I mean, because sometimes half the stuff that we that we need isn't covered, but would be covered under Blue Cross.
Yeah, and I mean, I have my wheelchair now, my manual chair, and the ministry did cover about half of it. But the reason they didn't cover the other half, the reason I had to pay for half of it, is because they said, well, it's just an optional thing, Neil, because and I have a scooter, but guess who paid for the scooter all out of pocket. I paid 100% of it. But the ministry says, well, we know you have a scooter and we know that you paid 100% of it, but it doesn't matter. We know you have the scooter. So this wheelchair that you want from us is optional. And so therefore we can only cover half. Isn't that crazy logic? It's like,
Dan's trying to kill himself over there because
I paid for every single cent of my scooter, and it was a $4,000 scooter. I paid for every single cent of it, and I've paid for every single cent of all kinds of repairs on past scooters and my other scooters I paid out of pocket. And the one time I asked the ministry for a big ticket item, they're like, "Well, I'm sorry, Neil, we can only pay for half because it's an optional thing because we know you have a scooter."
Oh my gosh! Neil, did you ask them? Were they willing to pay for the front part or the back part of it?
I know, it's just
just the left tire.
It's
Just the left
left
tire.
tire.
It's just crazy, and I mean, and of course, I mean, there's part of me that because it's a new wheelchair, you kind of wish that you could get like kind of the vanity things of the cool rims and stuff like that. But of course, they just put like the vanilla, like the bare minimum. They give you the bare minimum.
The cheapest option,
and again, I'm happy. I'm glad that they at least gave me half. But they're like, I'm sorry, we know you have a scooter, and even though you paid for every single cent of it, we can only give you the half of the chair because it's an optional thing for you, Neil. And I'm like going, excuse me, it's not optional. I broke my hip, so
it's not.
I can't get in a car anymore. I can't take my scooter in a car. So that's why I want the wheelchair. And they're like, well, it's optional. Getting into a car, Neil, is optional. Going to church every Sunday, Neil, is an optional thing. Going for dinners to your family members is an optional thing, Neil. It's not, that's the response I got. It's an optional thing.
But
here's a public service announcement for the BC government. Us mobile people here, we have transit, we have vehicles, we have bicycles, we have skateboards. For anybody to say to somebody that's in need of a mobile device that it's an option, man, I just got like, come on, don't watch, Mom, but like, come on, man, what are you smoking, people?
Yeah.
Right? Like you just said, you're not asking for a jet plane or anything. You're asking to be mobile to participate in your community, and these people think it's a fucking joke, man, and it's not.
And it's literally the one time I asked, like, I've been paying everything out of pocket for the last 10 years, one time I asked.
For example, when I went and asked if I could get, for example, for my CPAP machine, the one the government paid for is a regular CPAP machine. It's not an APAP, which I purchased on my own. I purchased an APAP because an APAP is adapted. So sometimes you'll have a light sleep and it'll adjust the air pressure to the lower pressure, or sometimes you need more pressure, so it'll automatically adjust. And for people with BiPAPs and all the rest of that stuff, usually that's automatically covered. But because they say, it's not severe enough, they won't cover it. But I could have gotten
You're not almost dead. You're not almost dead, so we can't cover it.
But the same thing would have been covered by Blue Cross, which is the insurer for the BC government for people on disability. It would have been covered without a problem. Now, when I sit here and I see this incessant waste of our tax dollars, right? The incessant waste of our tax dollars trying to justify the need for gatekeepers.
Anyone?
Anyone?
The gatekeepers. I just want to make sure I wasn't talking to myself being muted. No. It's like to be these gatekeepers where they could say, okay, you're on disability and we're going to cover the cost of Blue Cross. Here's your card, right? Here's your card. There you go. Right? Now, I would respect the government if they said, we're going to pay for Blue Cross or Manulife or whoever it is we decide to go with. Here's your card. Right?
Right.
And, and if there's anything else not covered outside of that, then we'll pick up the tab. Right? Then we'll pick up the tab. Right? That I would have respected our government for if they said, okay, they'll pay, like for example, the wheelchair, you need a full scooter, $4,000. Let's say it was an 80% deal. So 3,200 of that $4,000 would be paid by the government, or it'd be paid through Blue Cross, and then the government would pick up the rest of the tab because it's not covered because you're disabled. Mm-hmm. Now, if that would make sense, but when you have these gatekeepers screw around like this and try to justify their existence for their job, when you've read the legislation, you understand that their job could cease to exist tomorrow, and because we don't need them, it just blows my mind how we can justify this. I mean,
there's a lot of gatekeepers around.
We've reached the top of the hour already because we're
okay.
I'm trying to calm down here.
It's hard because of the government stupidity, right? The words just bombarding in my mind of archaic, right? Archaic, just policies that they just make up like pink unicorns. These are just policies. They just keep on popping out. Oh yeah, keep changing the right.
Just throw shit against the wall, see what sticks.
Yeah. And things that make sense. I mean, I remember that time when remember Space Sabers. Remember that ordeal?
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh, fighting going through. Oh no, you need to talk to Blue Cross. The government says. I go, no, I don't. I phone Blue Cross up, and why are you phoning us? Are you a doctor? No. Are you a practitioner? No. I go, what offers you? I'm just a citizen. What? Yeah, you shouldn't be phoning us. I'm having to do the government's job for them. I had to correct the whole damn thing because your stuff wasn't covered. It's always been covered. Well, somebody screwed up. But anyway, that's long story short. But I mean, all that red tape, all the rigmarole, running around, having to go back and forth on a ferry, back and that was a headache.
Government don't make mistakes, do they?
So I say to the government, well, can you reimburse me? No, that was actually optional decision that you decided to do on your own. Is it optional? Oh, I see. I said, what am I supposed to do? Oh, swim? I remember a time where I had to go to a dentist, and the dentist gave a medical plan, okay, in BC. And I'm not here to throw the NDP or the Liberals under the bus, okay, but I want to make a good damn point here, okay? Repercussions going forward, decades, where a simple solution from a doctor stating this is a treatment plan to prevent pain and suffering and ongoing problematic issues going forward in life. We need to prevent these things now, because basically the dentist said to me at one time, this is kind of my ending statement, and then I'll do our closing statements. But the issue is that when a doctor actually says, hey, I'm here to actually help the patient. I'm actually here to better the patient's health and well-being. So writes a letter out saying, I need you to go and take this to the health minister of each, the government and the opposition critic. Okay, and your local, and here's a carbon copy, take it to your local MLA and the opposition's one, right? So I had to figure out who is who in each government. So I sit down and then I'm getting a lecture. By government who is not even in government, and then the government that was in government saying, you need to budget better, Brent. You need to follow. Can you actually give me a list of where all your payments are going? How much you paying for rent? I'm sorry, and you're doing what for me? Why do I need to prove this? Oh, well, we've got to make sure that if the government was to fund this. I go, look, this has nothing to do with funding. This is going from a doctor who's saying this is what I need. And no, sorry, both governments said no. So even if we were in government, we would say no, and the other government said no. So I'm going, okay. So I go back to the dentist. I had a feeling that would happen. It's very unfortunate that they said no. They're declining extra extended coverage in order to save some teeth that were very important. So going fast forward, I look at it and I say, wow, what are we doing here? If you don't invest in money into the PWD, what do you got here? You got big problems going forward, right? Is that how we take care of our citizens? I mean, it's not asking for a Rolls Royce or my own personal jet, or my own train set, or hey, I want to provide a train service across freaking Canada. I mean, and make it cheap enough where people can travel. No, oh no, I'm just asking for people to actually listen to lived experience.
And my ending comment, I'm just going to piggyback on yours, is in contrast to the way government's acting right now, imagine if they took the tack that you have VRS back in the day, or you know, the IAM Cares, where they said, you know what, we're going to respect you, we're going to value you, we're going to trust you, and imagine if the government's empowered people with disabilities that way. Imagine how different that would be, rather than saying, you know what, I don't think you deserve that wheelchair because, you know, I know we didn't pay for any of your you know, mobility scooter, but we know you have it. So you know, being able to get out of the house and into a car is an optional thing, Neil. I mean, VRS and
that's just gaslighting.
And IAM Cares, both those organizations would never do that. So wouldn't it be nice if the provincial governments would take a page out of those two amazing organizations and trust your citizens and value your citizens and say, you know what, we're going to give you the money and you run with it, you know? And that's my ending statement.
Yeah, and you do what you feel you need to do that helps to better your well-being. You know, it's a wheelchair or a scooter. It's an attachment on who you are. It's your identity. It's who you are. It's like me. Oh, hey, take your glasses off, Brent. Yeah, you could go and read that sign way down the road. I can't because I need glasses. Oh, really? You do? Oh, okay. It's like the logical thinking that the governments they don't really think outside the box. You know what I mean? They say, well, this is one size fits all. I copy paste done. Let's just throw it out there. Next government comes in. Let's get a whiteout, and then we'll just photocopy and keep changing the script back and forth. That way, nothing ever really gets done. You know, so
it's rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yeah, and right now I see the Titanic. I see the ship. Like, it's really sinking. It's sinking fast. In order for it not to sink, government across Canada, you need to listen. You need to listen very carefully and very clearly. Okay, lived experience. People have asked for DERB. Okay, I'm going to run through this really quick. People have asked for DERB. No, government says, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Why? Oh, because some other organizations told us not to, because they felt maybe this is better for the whole PWD community's well-being, right? I'm sorry. Why don't you talk to disabled people across Canada? They could probably tell you differently how it affects their lives on a day-to-day basis. How many times do I see on social media people pleading, help, help, help? My neighbors down the road, and not on social media, they're pleading help, help, help. What is that telling you? I got a guy sleeping on our bus bench now, just down the road from here. He was crashed out last night. He didn't know where he was, what was going on. He hasn't eaten in like 6 days. Okay, and guess what? You know the sad part is he's a veteran. BC government, he's a veteran. He fought alongside his father, okay, in a war, and that's all he told me. And he was getting up there in age, but he said his father had passed, and his father was in another war in the world. But he said he remembered a lot and he learned a lot. And he told me to pass on the message when I do the podcast. He wants the government to recognize their citizens and respect their citizens in this country and in its province. Give them enough money that they can have to provide a roof over their head. I said, well, shelter. He says, stop using the word shelter. but I mean, that's just what industry calls it, right? So that's kind of hard for not to really say it. I echo his feelings on the word shelter, but that's what we all call it. So I still call it shelter. I don't like calling it shelter, but what do we call it, right? I mean,
A
but
home.
yeah, a home, but,
A home.
but yeah, and and he echoed it that he says give people enough money. I mean, for their housing, give people enough money where, like what you mentioned, MJ. I told him exactly what you mentioned, and he says it's not rocket science, sir. It's not. And I said, well, my name is Brent. He said, my name's Henry. Nice to meet you. I go, nice to meet you, Henry. And then you're not related to Henry Winkler, are you? I said, because man, you could be his son. He goes, I know who Henry is. He's still alive. I go, yeah, he's alive. But anyway, long story short is respect your citizens, respect PWD, respect seniors, veterans, low-income people. Doesn't matter who we are. We're all part of the same people in Canada. We're all citizens. Respect us. Dignity, autonomy. We should be able to go where we want. Seniors can go where they want in the country. They don't need a day pass or a month pass. I'm going to move over to Dan for closing comments. Dan.
We had a whole bunch of like the chat was blowing up today, and this proves, Dan, that sometimes I just not paying attention to the chat at all. Your mom's in chat, and there's a lot of activity in chat, and I just have not been paying attention to it at all today. So I apologize for that. But yeah, there's a lot of activity in chat today, so I apologize for ignoring it today. It's just one of those things that I sometimes do, so I apologize.
Yeah, no, and we need that in this room, right? Like that's the whole point of this roundtable, I think, from my point of view, and maybe others, that like we need people talking and we need people in on it, right? Very briefly, the one thing I will say is I agree with MJ about the smaller governments per se. Like in my experience working, the constituency staff, and I say it to you guys all the time, all the way back from when you started the podcast or the Twitter spaces, the constituency staff are the people to go to, because those are the people that act, and I'm not just saying it because that's what I was, but I saw it in action. And those are the people, you need the lived experience there. Without an MJ at the table, without a Neil or a Brent or an Alan or a Dan or a mom at the table, there's no lived experience there. So in closing, this is normally where I would say kick PP's ass tonight. Instead, what I'm going to say is ask him a question and ask him, sir, if you were disabled, would you live in a bus shelter? And get the response and see what happens. I know he's probably going to ask you if you got an apple or something, but I know you guys, I know you're going to take care of business there, and I look forward to these conversations, right? And we got to get our asses in gear. Lived experience at the table is what we need. Otherwise, it's just lip service from government to media to community that doesn't know any better than what they're hearing.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dan, on that. Yeah, awesome. And that's exactly well said on that, because it's so important that people, they don't know where to go to. They say, well, who do I talk to? Yeah, exactly. Go to your local your local city council. Go to your mayor. Talk to them. And that's ground level. Work from that point up. And if you're not getting answers from your local MLA and you feel more comfortable going to your local city, talk to your councils, whoever's there, they're going to take your word, and they're going to your voice, and they're going to echo it forward. They're going to pass it on to having their meetings, and then their meetings are going to talk to their higher brass people, which are connected to MLAs, MPPs, MPs, and it's going to go all the way up to, well, maybe up to the deputy or the prime minister. I don't know, but we got to wake these people up. We got to realize that their decision making is having a huge detrimental, negative impact on people's lives in Canada. And like I say again, I stress the point is, it doesn't matter if the person is disabled or if they're a senior, because they could be a senior with a disability, and these programs, they want to stop them at 64. Really? Like, I really hope that Canada disability benefit, whenever it does ever comes out, which I have my doubts. I really, and I don't want to sound negative about that, because I know people are really trying to get their hopes up, right? I really damn well hope that the government can get this fast forward, like now. They don't need to frickin' study this shit. Pardon my language. Here's that swear jar. They don't need to study it. Consultations. No. We need to put a DERB out. No, we can't do it. Yeah, you can do it. You can. I know the government's probably kicking and screaming in the back going, damn it, these people, they need to stop. No, we're not going to stop. Sorry, advocacy does not stop. It doesn't take a break. Okay? So what I'm saying to people watching this now or later on, if you believe in what we're saying right now, that you want the DERB, you want a Canada disability benefit, you want a basic livable income, whatever it may be, go to your local government, your mayor, and let them know this is what you want. Go to your MLA, tell them, and then they're going to go back to Parliament, or which in the province that you live in, MP is going to go to Parliament. Is what I meant, but MLA is the ministerial, legislative assistant. They're going to go to their legislator, and they're going to say, "Holy shit, this is what they're saying." Like, you know what? Shit's going to hit the fan, folks. Like, we mean business across Canada. Disabled people are not going to sit silent, right? We can have peaceful rallies. Yes, and they are peaceful rallies. And I think that people have the right to basically have their voices heard. And the ones that people like, they want to come on. I've had people reach out to me, Dan, and they say, they want to come on to the show. They want to, but they're scared. They think that their voice is not going to be heard. But what do I say? I said, what do you say? Just be yourself. Like, just pretend you're just talking to me. And and if somebody else is watching, oh, well, that's not, that's no concern, because if they're watching, okay, they're watching. They want to send comments, they send comments. It's just that I said, just think that you're sitting down with me and a cup of coffee. We're just sitting and shooting the shit back and forth, and just be yourself and throw it out there. I just wing it. That's how I do it. That's how I do the shows. I don't script it. I don't say, okay, this is what you're going to say, Brent.
That's what we did yesterday. That's what we did yesterday. You had no idea. You had no idea.
I had no idea. But the thing is, I tried the scripting thing, and I tell you, I will literally screw it up. I did that one day, standing in front of the legislature, and I was saying some stuff, but I had a little cue card kind of reminding me of.
Well, that's why you have the talking points of the broader points that you want to go and cover, and just have the sub points that you want to cover.
Yep.
And.
Yeah, that's what I do. And other times I just wing it, and then if I forget something, oh well, I guess it'll come to me next time.
Well, exactly. We're recording the shows. We can talk about it next time.
Yeah, totally. So echoing everybody's, common theme. Our voices need to be heard. We need to have a livable income. These programs are archaic. Neither the government wants to actually listen and fix things. Like what is COVID has exposed all the inequalities across the nation. It's opened up all the problems. Now, the problems of economically, yes, these programs were designed intentionally not to actually meet the person's needs. So we're now telling them, this is not it. It's not working. It's broken. So we've got these universal UABI. This is MJ, what you've mentioned. These are great, awesome, but logical these concepts that they be implemented in.
See, what I understand is, a lot of people will become unemployed in the process that work in government, and this is a matter of fact.
Yep.
It's not something we're going to be able to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
See, the truth is we have a population collapse on the verge. And this is a truth of a fact because we have the baby boomer generation who had more kids than our generation's Gen X, right? Yep. And they're having, and we're having less kids. So
I did my part.
So when it comes to all of these jobs, we know that there's a lot of certain jobs that are just going to need to go away and need to be automated, and that people will end up in jobs that actually matter instead of generally useless jobs. Unfortunately, when it comes to our taxes and our money, a lot of people are now starting to say we want a lean government, but at the same time we want to be able to go and say, hey, if I need money and I'm unemployed or unemployable or disabled, right, then I need to be able to go and have access to something, but I don't need to be dictated to at every turn.
Or
I mean,
prove yourself.
if
Yeah.
I want, like, if I want to go and pick up and sell with my mom and move over to Manitoba, let's say, or move to somewhere else,
Mhm.
I would be able to do that. But right now, I'd get cut off of disability. Then I'd go and have to wait 6 months and end up being in debt, even worse,
Yeah.
while I'm trying to keep myself going. So the problem we have here is what a lot of people don't understand is with the current setup is designed to keep the failure of society going. And I'm sorry, but I'm one of these people that I want to see society succeed. Whether you're disabled, whether you're not disabled, where you all decided, hell, you know what? I'm tired of working in the fishing field. I want to move to Alberta and work in the oil
Yeah.
field. There's UBI there to help you with moving and transitioning. There's money there that you can save up. You can say, okay, it's going to take me 3 months to go and save up to find a place to rent, fine and dandy. The problem we have is with all these terms and conditions that have been created, that they've made it so that, I'm just going to put it this way, they've made it so that people that are disabled and on disability or homeless, it's easier to go and take MAID than it is to go and actually help these people, because that's what they're
Yeah,
trying to do.
I'm glad that you said that, because you must have been reading my mind.
It just came to me, and it's like, this is what they're pushing. And I think every human life has value, whether you're disabled or not.
Yes,
And
eugenics. Yes, eugenics.
I'm against all forms of eugenics in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I'm against abortion, but everyone should have the right to have the best birth control available to them. Or practice abstinence. I mean, if you're, or just do it safe as possible. I mean, but all of these options should be available, and we shouldn't be playing games.
Right.
And this is where it's like, oh, well, this like the birth control pill is covered under disability, but if a girl wants to go get the implant, I don't know if it's covered or not. And the implant is 99.98% effective. A lot better than the 70% failure rate in the pill. But women will say, well, if you take it properly, it's going to be effective. That may be true, but there's always times that things will fail, right? And we can't guarantee everything perfectly. But the abortion option should be there, yes. But we should make it so that it's not needed, so we can help people out in their lives. Instead of making things an obstacle to go and say, oh, this is not available to you, or we're not going to cover your birth control, or we're not going to cover this, right? Healthcare is the biggest part of the catch to making people being able to be successful in life. And for women, there's women that want to work, there's women that want to stay home, be in a family, and make a family.
Yeah.
We should give everyone the equal right and equal choice, and stop impeding their lives in any way, shape, or form. And this is where, to me, government should always say we should give the best options possible to everyone in the system. So in the end, we save money instead of making it so that we have to spend. Like, for example, Neil, if we went and said, we're going to give you the cheapest wheelchair possible that's electric, and it's going to be guaranteed to break down in about 6 months to a year, instead of saying we're going to spend $5,000 or $6,000 on the highest quality equipment to get you, right, out of the gate. That way, we save our tax dollars in the long run at the end, instead of giving the cheapest and lowest quality products possible. Our tax dollars would be saved, and we would see better healthcare all the way around. We'd see better housing issues being able to be solved if we got the government out of the way. I mean, I don't know how hard it is to understand that, our government has paralyzed themselves with union contracts, and they can get those out of the way as well by just paying out the contract as well, and just say, we'll pay you out today, have a nice day. Your 3-year contract is now paid out in full, but your job is ending today. Have a nice day. Your 3 years of salary at $60,000 or $80,000 is being paid out today. You're done, right? And I'm sorry if people say, well, that's just cruel or it's mean or whatever. No, I mean, we cannot keep a system that's designed to keep us in a perpetual state of poverty, in a perpetual state of fighting against ourselves and fighting and making people's lives miserable. Do you think these workers' lives are even less miserable because they have to sit here and terrorize us? Do you think these people enjoy this? They don't.
Yeah.
So we should be able to go and say, I'm sorry, but your job's no longer needed. We don't need you anymore. And go and get yourself re-educated. We're going to put together a UBI, which you can access to go back to school to become educated in something else at the same time.
We have 2 minutes. You have to run, Brent. We have 2 minutes. So
Okay.
Yeah.
who wants
Okay.
to jump in
So
for
do-
2 minutes?
I'm sorry I took so long.
That's
Yeah,
it.
that's okay. Well, we'll extend it by an extra three minutes on top.
Okay.
No worries. It's all good, MJ. I find that very informative.
Alan.
Oh, we
It's so
forgot
important.
Alan. Sorry. We
Yeah,
forgot
Alan.
Alan.
I had to mention that.
I'll try and keep it short. I'm just curious to see if I had a chance to ask Pierre one thing. I would be like, now that the Canadian Disability Benefit is being in royal assent, what's your intention with it? Because is your government going to throw people with disabilities across Canada under the bus, just like the Liberals have, and for the most part, all parties? Because from our perspective, we're not seeing any knights in shining armor. We're seeing a bunch of dumbasses in tinfoil, running around like chickens in the yard, and we're not seeing any impact. You guys haven't done right by Aboriginal First Nations. You haven't done right by people who are LGBTQ plus. You haven't done it right by people with disabilities. If you implemented the disability benefit, gave it an amount like you did CERB within the first 4 weeks if that was out, because I guarantee if the Canadian Disability came out today and let's say it was a bare minimum, I'm talking brass tacks, the minimum they could give of $500. The fact that they gave everybody who had a disability that got a T5 form or whatever it was, $500 a month. If I said that's all we're going to do, I would enjoy. You would see a savings in the healthcare industry. People wouldn't need to be going to hospitals, emergency rooms as much. A whole bunch of stuff. The ripple effect.
Anxiety and stress would go down.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Like they would see results within the first year that were quite astonishing.
Poverty costs money,
Sure.
right?
It
Yeah,
is. I mean,
Cost
Jack
more
Layton
people,
said to me, the reason the status quo hasn't changed is there's too much profit and poverty.
Yeah,
And he said that to me. He said that to me in the Cabbage Town Festival on a wet, rainy day when he brought me a coffee because he saw me walking around my camera that was getting rained on. And he went to Starbucks, didn't ask me, just brought he said, I made it a medium half and half. I hope that's okay. It was good. I mean, but he said there's just too much profit and poverty. But I would like to hear what Pierre's approach is now, because I mean they can't cancel they necessarily won't implement the disability benefit, but they can't actually axe it because it's in royal assent. I would like to know from the mouth of babes, as they say, what he would do for people with disabilities and what he wouldn't do.
Good question.
And that's how I'm going out. Because
Thanks.
I think a lot of these
On that
government
note,
officials are tinfoil wannabes running around with swords.
So, thank you on that, Alan. Last comment over to you, Dan, and then Neil, and then myself.
No, I already had a last comment, so I'll just say
and me
goodbye to
too. So
everybody.
I'm good.
And,
Okay.
just
Okay,
make sure you go get him tonight, buddy. That's all
Yeah.
I can say. Ask him those
Yeah.
questions and go get him.
That's right.
sounds good. And yeah,
Just
well,
And press them hard.
Just be kind, and
oh yeah,
and always, be out kind out kind them with kindness. That's what my grandma always said.
That's right.
well, yeah. I mean, because I mean, he's taken his time to listen to people in the audience. Well, at least we hope so, anyway. But I will definitely make sure that voices get heard, get carried forward, and they stress the point that people with
And I have
disabilities
nowhere angry.
and
They have nowhere angry. We're angry. We're
Yeah.
scared.
Well, yeah, and people, yeah, they're scared because our lives are at risk, and people are suffering. And nobody should be suffering in Canada. I mean,
And May's being pushed on us by our current government.
oh, you're approved.
Yeah.
Yeah, like really, like
Just like a
oh,
bank
gee,
loan. You've been
Yeah.
approved.
yeah, mhm. Terrible, terrible. But I want I want to thank everyone for tuning in today, and this has been a great episode. It's been a little bit condensed episode today. Looking forward to next week's roundtable number 9. If you want to be a guest on the show, reach out to myself. I put the link out there on Twitter. I still call it Twitter. People call it X. I call it Twitter. It's on there. Follow me. Follow Neil's YouTube channel. Subscribe. Stay up to date on the latest shows. Breaking with Brent, the traveling segment. You name it. It's all there. Follow the tabs and stay up to date on all the latest episodes. And come on to the show. Don't be scared. I won't bite. I just want you to be yourself.
I used to be scared, but I'm no longer scared now.
Oh, never be scared. Never be scared, because it's all about lived experience, right? It's all about people telling it's just not their stories though. I mean, their stories, yes, absolutely, but it's also, what are your ideas? Like, what are your ideas on, what do you think on how government policies is affecting your life? What do you want to see changed? What can we do? At our round table, that other discussions that we can have. Bring your ideas forward. If you want to join the round table, we've got a couple more chairs that we can put in there, and definitely, I think there's opportunity for people to join in. So definitely join the disability community across Canada on the show. That's really unite and bring our voices forward and hold the government officials accountable, because they are elected officials. They're supposed to be representing the communities that they represent. Definitely, we need to do that. And like I said before I end the segment, if you feel more comfortable about going to talk to your mayor or your city council and you don't want to talk to your MLA, that's fine, right? If you feel more comfortable in that level, start there. Work your way up to your MLA, your MPP, your MP, whoever you feel is better going to represent your voice. Carry it forward. That's what it's all about, everyone. It's about saying your freedom of your speech, right? Of when I say about your disability rights, that freedom of expressing yourself. We don't judge people on the show, so definitely come on, and I'll make you feel welcome. It's not scripted. Just wing it. I wing it. You wing it. We joke around. It's not all about serious things. I can joke around too. Hey, Brent spilled his crap.
I forgot to make one quick announcement.
Sure.
Yesterday was Neil Young's birthday.
Oh.
So everybody put some music out, because
There you go.
not only Neil's son, Ben, was disabled, but Neil actually suffered polio when he was in his teens.
Right.
Which is why the way he moves around on stage.
Okay.
No way.
I like that video with the trains. That was cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
They used to run the bridge school in California, the bridge school music thing, and they would have, it was strictly all about people with disabilities, and Peggy, who's passed away now, was the one that started it, but Neil would have tons of musicians on it.
Wow.
You can find videos on the bridge school concerts, but Neil and his son both technically have a disability. So someone post a happy birthday video of Neil Young out on social media somewhere. I'd be curious.
Maybe we should get him on the show.
I think that would be wonderful, actually, to reach out to get Neil Young on. Definitely, Ellen. Thank you for sharing that. What if you don't mind me asking, what disability does Neil Young's son have?
Cerebral palsy, non-verbal. So he's at the far end of the spectrum than I am.
Okay.
Where Neil Young recorded an album during the Geffen era called Transformer, and it was a music album and his way to communicate with his son. So
Yeah,
the song Transformer Man was, which he did at the Unplugged show after many years of not doing it when he was back with Reprise. He did Transformer Man on the Unplugged album, but it was from a digital electronic techno album he did in the 80s. So,
I thought I had heard that his son has cerebral palsy, and that's why I just wanted to clarify to.
yeah, it was cerebral palsy,
Mm.
and it's out there. So if you see it, I think I posted it on Twitter. So anybody wants to repost that, that'd be cool. I actually met Scott Young, who was his father, who was
Oh,
a sports. He was a sports journalist for the Toronto Argonauts and a whole bunch of people. And a friend of my dad's, my aunt was dating a guy called Dave McCurdy, who apparently was a quarterback for the CF for the Toronto Argonauts back in the day. And he took me to Neil's dad's house in Toronto. It was neat.
wow,
Um, I
that's
met Neil once. I met Neil once. I wish I knew you guys back then because I walked into uh, the Horseshoe Tavern downtown on Queen West, and I was living in Toronto at the time. And Neil had just got over he had a brain aneurysm
mm,
in 2005, and he had just been operated. So it was his first time they were back in Canada. And they were at the Horseshoe Tavern to see the same band I was, which had got snowed out in Edmonton.
mhm.
So
Well, thanks, Ellen, on that. But we should really wrap her up for
yeah,
today. But we'll definitely we'll catch up on the second part of that on the next segment. We'll talk more. We'll dive into about Neil Young, and maybe in the meantime we can try and reach out and see if we can get Neil Young on.
Sure.
well,
Who
there are
knows?
guys like Ruben who know Neil Young well. That's the best way to reach out to him. Really, is
Okay,
reach out to someone in the city of Omemee because that's his hometown, Omemee,
okay,
Ontario. So
there we
if
go.
if you can find someone in Omemee, you might stumble against someone that personally knows Neil.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good to know. Thanks on that, and
But
thanks everyone for tuning in today. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel Neil Matheson, and check out the latest podcast on your favorite app, Spotify. You name it, it's out there. The show's there, and just listen up. If you're running, walking, you're just I don't know, you just want to just sit and just chill out and listen to this podcast. Tune in. Thanks, everyone.
thank you.
You.